Sometimes I look at our teamwork and I say, is this weird?
Was there fears or doubts starting a church?
We packed our U-Haul and left Illinois not knowing where we were going to live.
Tim's sales pitch was, I don't know if we can pay you, but we'd really like you to come.
We're at a point right now where it looks like we're an overnight success.
Our dream, it'd be cool to be sitting at the back and be 80 years old and see the babies that we held in our arms leading this church.
Well, Mike, Tim, thank you so much for coming on to the So What's the Point podcast. So glad you guys could take some time out of your schedule, come onto the set. To give everyone who'll be listening to this a little bit of idea about who you are, can I have you guys go back a little bit of your background as a child?
Well, I'll go first because my childhood started before Tim's did because I'm older than he is. So I guess when I tell my story, the thing that I always start with is how grateful I am for the family that I was born into, obviously by the grace of God. My parents both love the Lord and served the Lord their whole lives, and in ministry and the pastorate, and then on the staff and faculty of MBBI in New Brunswick, Canada. And I was raised in a home where Christ was honored and God was glorified, and sacrifices were made every day to serve the Lord. So that's how I grew up. I mean, that didn't certainly guarantee my salvation, but I was certainly very fortunate to be in a home where I was taught the Word of God. As far as I know, the very first Sunday I was alive, I was in church, and that's how I was raised. So I came to know the Lord personally when I was very young, when I was about 5 years old, and just was able to watch my family and a lot of our closest friends serve the Lord with their lives. So it was very natural for me to be thinking about that as I got older, became a teenager, was in high school, and so forth, and I really felt God calling me into ministry.
Tim, how about you?
Actually, my story is a lot like Mike's. My parents were on staff at New Brunswick Bible Institute as well. My dad was there almost from the very beginning, and was part of planting People's Church in Somerville, New Brunswick, and was part of the Sunday school ministry there, and part of Canadian Sunday School Mission as well, which did kids camps. So ministry was a massive part of my parents' life. And like Mike, the very first Sunday that I was at home, I was in church. And our whole family was that way. All of us grew up that way. And I also had wonderful Christian parents who they loved God, loved the church, wanted to serve God no matter what. And that was what I saw every day of my life. And so I also came to faith at a very young age, and decided when I came to Christ that I wanted to serve him some way. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. And Dad would involve me in whether we were helping out at the camp or we were helping out at the church or kids events that he had helped plan. So I just was exposed to ministry from when I was tiny. I just went with him everywhere. Wherever he went, whatever he did, I went with Dad. So ministry has always been part of how I lived life. I really didn't know anything different, and knew that God would use me in whatever, wherever I ended up, or whatever job, whatever station in life I ended up in, just knew that God would use that, and that's been part of my life. So I guess that's part of how I ended up in ministry, if you would.
Yeah. So both of you guys, your environments really dictated, I guess, to where you are to this point, to an extent, right? How you grew up, where you grew up. Do you think if you didn't grow up in that environment, you would be in the place you are today?
That's a hard question to answer, because if you said environment in terms of external environment, it's different than the internal environment of the home.
Mm.
And I think my parents' walk with Christ, it wasn't religious, it was a relationship with Christ, which I saw every day. It wasn't that they said the right words, they lived the right words. They lived out their faith. So yeah, I would say that part of the environment had a massive impact, because God wasn't a distant person they talked about. He was an intimate relationship that they owned.
Mm.
And so, yeah, from that standpoint, I would say yes.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, it'd be really hard to. Obviously, it's hard to know because that's not what happened. But that's why I just, like I said before, I really believe that that's been the greatest blessing in my life is my family situation, and growing up where we did. Our families, Tim's family and my family, we kind of grew up together, hung out together, Melody's family as well, and several others of like-minded, walking with the Lord, serving the Lord, sacrificing to care for other people. That's how we grew up, watching that and seeing that. And I think that's maybe one of our dreams for here at Moss Brook. Certainly it's different. It's not a Bible school. It's not a campus per se, but to be able to create that and have that family atmosphere so that our families here, moms and dads and kids, are growing up together, living life with other people who want to do what's right, who want to make the right choices and want to serve God together. I think that's incredibly valuable for our families to be able to enjoy.
Yeah, so you touched a little bit on the mission and what Moss Brook Church looks like. How would you describe Moss Brook Church to someone who's never been to Moss Brook Church or never heard?
We've always said that we feel like we're a bit of an anomaly for our area. Most of the churches in our area are small, on the smaller side, populated by many times a lot of older folks, a lot of senior citizens. Not that there aren't any other churches around here that have families, but I guess the thing that strikes people the most, what I hear people saying when they walk in is, wow, I'd never dreamed there'd be this many young people. I never would have believed there were this many kids or teenagers or young adults. To me, that's what I love the most about our church is the variety and the demographic. I mean, it feels like almost every couple of weeks there's a new baby. And we also have people in their 80s. That are an active part of this church, that are serving, that are caring for one another, that are faithful to be a part of what's going on. And my challenge to people who have never been here before or are curious about it is, come and see for yourself. I think it's evident God is at work here, and you can feel that when you walk in, the atmosphere, the energy of seeing people together who are excited about worshiping God and excited about just caring for each other. That the family atmosphere is something that I sense, and I hope that other people do when they come in.
I think too, you asked a little bit about the mission, the start, and when we started, one of the phrases we used a lot was that someone who didn't have faith, didn't have a relationship with Jesus, it would be a safe place for them to come check that out and feel okay to show up and then not show up again, to ask questions, to check out how people lived with God in worship and in fellowship with each other, and see if it was something that they really desired. And one of the cool things for me is we've kept that atmosphere.
Mm.
And on Sunday mornings, there are people checking this church out pretty much every week who don't go to church regularly, but they feel very comfortable to come. And they feel welcome. They feel like people accept them and they're friendly. I just chatted with a gentleman this past Sunday who it was his third Sunday. And he's like, I feel like everybody's my friend and I can ask whatever questions. And he was right up front that he doesn't know God yet. And so we're 21, 22 years in, and that same mission, that same desire, it's still happening. A lot of folks go to church and they feel like they have to act a certain way, or they have to dress a certain way, or they have to know a certain language if they're going to come and they're going to be part. And we've tried to do just the opposite and say, no, come as you are. And we'll welcome you and we'll introduce you to Jesus, and we'll try to show you that what a relationship with Jesus can be and can look like. And so for me, that's been a big part of what we do every week, and what we really work hard at setting that atmosphere and that stage for people.
Definitely want to touch on this again in a minute. First, I'd like to ask, and you mentioned you guys grew up in the same area, very close to each other. When was that first time you guys met?
I can speak to this. So my family, I mean, you know, Tim's entire family was generated on that campus.
Right.
Tim was born right there in that little town, and I had just turned 12, or I was about to turn 12 when my family moved there. My mother was from that area, was from that town originally, and my folks had gotten married, moved back to my dad's hometown here in Maine, and then when I was about 12, we moved back. And I remember at the time, that first summer, we were living in an apartment, or we were moving into an apartment right in the middle of campus. And we had a Ryder truck or a U-Haul truck or something. We had crammed all of our belongings in, and Dad was driving that, and Mom was driving the, whatever we had, family station wagon or something with stuff in the back. And the truck was so full with all of our stuff that my dad had tied my bike and my brother's bike to the back of the truck. I mean, that's how full it was. I remember us driving in, and I remember Tim, and I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to take a stab that it was another one of would become our close friend, was Tim's close friend, Ronnie, were on their bikes and came by and saw our bikes tied to the back of the truck.
Yep.
And we're like, wow, are those your bikes? Those are cool. And we lived in the middle of nowhere with a long dirt driveway. And we moved to campus, and all of a sudden we were in the middle of this giant paved area. And we were like, oh my goodness, this is going to be great for Dad, get those bikes off there. Yeah. That's my recollection. And it was just kind of, we got our bikes down, and I don't know if our bikes stopped rolling that whole summer or for the next 2 or 3 summers, actually.
We lived
riding all over campus.
Yeah.
But
I remember you and Doug, I think it was the year before that you guys came to Sunday school at
probably.
People's Church.
Probably.
And you were in our class.
Yeah, my grandparents went to that church that Tim's family went to. That's the church that my mom grew up in. My grandparents still went there, so we would come and visit and come to.
Because I remember my folks saying, "Do you remember the 2 boys that were at Sunday school?"
Yeah.
Last summer or whatever, when they were explaining that your dad was coming on staff.
Yeah.
And that was the first, I was like, oh, I know who that is. Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Been a long time.
It's been about 43 years.
Yeah. I know that's impossible though, because we don't look that old.
Well, I'm 29 and you're 28. So
exactly.
Anyway.
Quite the story.
That's new math, by the way.
I came here when I was 8.
Yeah.
Okay. You probably get some comments like, how old are they actually? We're not sure.
That's right.
To be determined. So when did you realize that God wanted you guys to work together at something?
We started working together when I was 14 and Tim was 13, and we had this brilliant idea that we would make a lot of money if we started repairing the
Bikes.
other kids' bicycles.
Yes. Yep.
And so we started a little thing we called T&M's Bike Shop
Yep.
in Tim's basement.
We did.
And it wasn't really very
It was a
successful.
flop.
But
I mean, we did repair bikes. We never made a cent though.
No.
No.
So that was that. That was the first stab at it.
Yeah.
So if you go looking up T&M's Bike Shop, it probably won't show up.
It does not. Show
Don't
up.
waste your
Probably not
time.
gonna
That
get
was
too many
prior to the
web
internet.
results.
And,
Yeah.
and we never really registered the trademark.
Okay.
No.
We worked together also though at the school at MEBI, where there was a farm there, and we worked summers together on that farm and gardening and all kinds of different things. And then we worked together at Elam Lodge, which
Yeah,
was up in
that's
Ontario.
That's true.
So we've spent a lot of time that way. But then ministry wise, prior to Moss Brook, we talked about working together. We were both in different churches serving, and we talked for 4 or 5 years, really,
Yeah.
off and on,
Yeah.
about doing ministry together. And I think, we wouldn't have probably said it this way back then, but we knew that we had different gift mix and we complemented each other on our gift mix. We saw the philosophy of ministry the same. Theologically, we agree. The passion of just seeing folks come to Christ, and what does that look like? What does it take? What's it take for families to be motivated to grow in faith was something we've always talked about. And so in a lot of ways, it was a natural thing when the opportunity came to take those steps. And we just really have since, we've talked on and off for years about what that could be, what it could look like. And so, yeah.
We didn't know it was going to happen.
No.
We didn't know it would happen for sure. And if it did, of course, we really didn't have any idea when. Tim's the one to tell the story about how Moss Brook actually started, because he was here at the beginning, before I was. But even when that happened, we didn't think that was necessarily, it was going to happen then, because of some things that were going on in our lives that I can speak to when Tim tells the story of how Moss Brook started. But the one thing that is really certain, even more certain to me now, Melody and I were pretty certain then that, God was clearly directing us to come here and to work together. But now looking back, there's just no doubt in my mind that God knew exactly what was happening and just directed it very clearly. It's even more clear now looking back than it was at the time, and it was pretty clear then.
Yeah. We tried at another church. There was an opportunity that kind of came up for us to work together, and the door closed, and it was very evident that the door closed. And it moved Pam and I to the Midwest for a period of time, which changed and helped us both, Pam and I both, kind of really have a different perspective on ministry and what that could be, and different ways of serving and different ways of even seeing people and how to reach people and how to care for people, which God knew we needed that to do what we've done for the last 22 years without having that exposure.
And by we, I would say we as a church, not just you and Pam, although we did that, but we needed we needed that as a church too.
Yeah, the direction of the church, how we do leadership, how we even view ministry, how we view finances. God took those 3 years and really did a work in my heart and broadened my view of what could be.
Mm.
That was a bit of a disappointment for us too when that happened, when we had this other opportunity before Moss Brook. And Melody and I came down and spent some time here with Tim and Pam and with the leaders of the church that we were working with at the time, and we were kind of excited about the possibilities, and it was a little disappointing when that didn't work out, but much like God used that 3 years to change Tim and Pam and build into their lives and prepare them for this. God did the same with Melody and I. It was 4 years after that for us because Tim and Pam had already moved back here for a year before we came down. So that 4 years we were in Sherman, Maine, which is 80 miles north of Bangor, in a small church there, and it had been great. We'd been there for 7 years, and God had worked and grown us and grown the church and changed some lives. But actually, that 4 years after that first, kind of coming together to see if God wanted us to work together, that next 4 years before we came to Moss Brook were the 4 most fruitful years we had there. God just did some really amazing things in that church family and in so many ways, and grew us and I don't know, just changed us too. And so I look back and that was a little disappointing. Of course, now knowing what God's doing here, I wouldn't have wanted to miss this for the world. But I'm so thankful we didn't miss those last 4 years in Sherman. We thought maybe we were ready to go after that, at that 7-year mark, but God had something else in store for us, and I'm really glad we didn't miss it. I'm really thankful we got to be a part of it.
When you're building something very closely with someone else, how important is it that you guys have different personalities with different gift sets?
It's incredibly important, first of all.
That's the short answer.
That's the short answer.
That's the short answer, yeah.
There's a couple parts to that, though. The first, I would say, it's recognizing the fact that you aren't the same and celebrating it, and not trying to be the same.
I celebrate all the time that I'm nothing like Tim.
Exactly, and ditto.
Sorry, I'm
but it's
sidetracking.
No, but it's very true. It's not just knowing that you're different, it's celebrating the fact that you're different. And it matters a lot, because you're not trying to make the person become what you are. You're realizing that you're going to bring something to this whole adventure, and they're going to bring something to the whole adventure, and the two of those things together make that really work. And if you try to make it so both of you are the same, you weaken what it is that you're trying to do. So it's celebrating those differences and making room for them.
When you say celebrate, what do you mean by celebrate the difference?
Well, it's when Mike is doing something, it's cheering him on. It's like, you do that and you do it really well, so you keep doing. Don't let me interrupt it. Don't let me change it. Maybe from the outside, I might say, hey, did you think about something a little different? But instead of trying to control it, or it's cheer them on, be the biggest cheerleader you could possibly be while that's going on. And I mean, we've done that for each other. And so, and then when there's a win in something that he's working on because that becomes bigger, it's not just him. That win affects other people, other teams, other members of the body. It's celebrating all of them and being okay with the fact, hey, they're winning. And I want that to keep happening. I want them to win. And making room for that. And I think that's a big part.
One of the things that we always thought was quite amusing to us, especially in the earlier years of Moss Brook, was when people would get us mixed up.
Yeah.
They would call me Tim. They would call him Mike, whatever. And, wow, you guys are so much alike. And that really amuses us
Right.
because
We are not.
we're not really that much alike. I mean, we're both pastors, yes. And for a long time, we both, worked construction jobs on the side to make ends meet when the church was, still in its formative stages. So, but other than that, that's about where the similarities end, really,
Right.
personality and gift-wise. I mean, the other thing that I would say to what Tim has already said is it's a tremendous privilege to be able to work together with someone, to have the collaboration, and to know that not everything rests on you. Now, of course, ultimately we know, in a spiritual sense, obviously this is Christ's church and he's the one that does the work and it doesn't rest on me. But just from a human side, from a human perspective, that every phone call that comes in is not one that you have to take. Every counseling session, every grieving family, every difficult situation that we're walking through this together. And that's been a huge encouragement to me to know that, we're not perfect. And we don't work together perfectly because no human tandem does. But from my perspective, I will say that as I don't know what it is. It's either as I've gotten older and hopefully more mature, humanly speaking, and more mature spiritually, and perhaps partly also as the church has grown and the responsibility and the ministry have grown, I've personally found it easier and easier to, as Tim has said, celebrate our differences, because now, like in the past, I don't know, the past 2 or 3 years especially, it's become even more obvious that it's so important that Tim knows how to do the things he does, and he's passionate about the things that he's passionate about, and that I do the things that I do. I mean, it always has been, but when the church is smaller, when there's not as much going on, there was a lot more crossover.
Right. A lot of overlap.
2 or 3 years ago, we literally sat down and took a legal pad and said, okay, I'll do this, you do this, I'll do it, and it was awesome to be able to say, I mean, I don't think out of the 15 or 20 things we put on that list, I don't think we really discussed any of them.
No.
It was just like, well, you're going to do that. Well, yeah, you're going to do that. It just was obvious because of who we are and where our abilities lie that this is the way we got to do it.
The other piece to that I would kind of bring in is, I think scripturally, when you look at leadership teams and how they're defined in Scripture, they're defined as a team. They're not ever defined as individuals. It does two things. One, Mike alluded to the maturity part as we grow older, but I think when you're working with a team and you make room for each other, it does something to you to realize not only is this not all on me, I answer to Mike and Mike answers to me, and we do to the elders. But at the same time, every day when we work, we know that the other guy is watching, and not in a bad way. It's a good thing. It's motivating.
And we're depending on each other.
Yeah,
I'm depending on him
Sure.
to do the things that he does, and he's depending on me to do the things that I do.
Yeah, there's just so many benefits all the way around.
Yeah.
To being in a team and working together and making room for each other.
This is kind of our life. So, sometimes I look at our partnership, our teamwork over the last more than 21 years at this point here, and I say, I don't know, is this weird? Is it normal?
Right.
I guess I don't know of a lot of like situations where two guys have worked together for 21 years. I guess maybe the other little bit of an odd dynamic maybe that we have that maybe don't is people have really tried to, who's the lead pastor?
Right.
Who's the senior pastor? People love those titles. And we've really really kind of firmly resisted doing that because in our minds it's not about that. We're both here, we work together and we share the load, and I don't know. I don't want to sound super spiritual, but I don't think either one of us cares
No, and even decision wise,
about that.
the whole time we've just made decisions together.
Mhm.
And as our elders team has grown, we're just like, okay, we're in this together. We're doing this together. So let's make the decisions together. And there's no one that has more weight than the other. It's just, let's talk this through. And so often you just, as you're doing that and you're using the gifts you have, you come to very logical, like, oh, that's the next step we probably ought to take. And you define it together and off you go and you try it.
Yeah.
And you win together and you fail together and it's fine, you know?
And sometimes we just sit in one of the other's office and we commiserate.
That's right. We're like, why are we still doing this?
And we plan what it is that we're going to go do next because we're, it's been a long haul or we're tired or,
right.
Whatever. And then, we dust ourselves off and say, okay, time to get back to work.
Let's go.
Was there a moment where it just clicked that you knew you guys would work together or would have a great partnership?
I don't know if my memory's that good.
Well, I remember calling you and saying, okay, I'm moving to Oxford County. I'm going to plant a church.
Yep.
And you got to think that within a year or so, you're going to be here. That was kind of how the conversation.
That's pretty much how I recall it too. I think
I'm like, I can't do this alone. Yeah. I don't want to do it alone. So you need to start thinking about it and kind of make a plan.
Yep. That's my recollection too.
So,
but in the meantime, in that year, another opportunity came.
That's true.
Came my way, and to me, this was a really important part too, really important step for me. To know for sure that God was leading and what He wanted for us, because the opportunity that presented itself was what I probably would have said that at that point had been a pastor for almost 11 years. I would say it was probably what I would have called my dream scenario, my dream job, working on a team with a pastor that had really mentored both of us, had been our pastor when we were teenagers, when we were kids and teenagers, who we both greatly admired. Tim had had a chance to work with him already. I mean, I remember thinking about it. It would be so incredible to be able to work with him and just learn and just be a part of a team. And I guess in my heart, God had already put a longing to be a part of a team. I was alone in Sherman for those 11 years. I had some great guys, some great elders, but I was alone as far as that, pastoral leadership. And so the dream job presented itself, and we went out and stayed for a weekend and had all kinds of conversations and checked it all out and talked it all through and got home. Melody knew before I did. Melody knew that this was not what God was asking us to do. But she also knew that in my heart, this was something I thought I wanted to do. That I thought God would call us to. We were both praying individually. We were praying together. And it was only a few days after we had been out there. I had told our friend that we had gone to meet with, I said, give me a week and let me just pray about it. Let Melody and I talk and pray, and then I'll get back to you and we can go from there. And I just knew God was saying no. That it just wasn't the right fit. As much as I wanted it to be in some respects and hoped it would be, I knew it wasn't. And Melody knew it too, but we hadn't really voiced that to each other. And I remember one evening I came home and we had dinner and put Gavin to bed and we sat down and I looked at her and I just said, this isn't it. And she went, I know. She knew, and she was just praying, that God would lead me and show me. And I said, okay, all right, this isn't it. We know it's not it. And so the next morning I got to my office, and I called Dr. Bob and I said, hey, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Incredible. Love you. Praying for what God has for you, because they were moving. They were going. They were headed, and he needed help. But I said, this God's telling us no. There's something else. And the next day, the phone rang, and it was Tim.
Yeah.
And he knew that we were going out. That we were going out to see Dr. Bob. He knew about that, and he said, "What'd you tell him?" I said, "I can hardly believe it, but I told him no." He said, "Good, because you got to come down here. We're ready." And that was kind of the, and I think that was like April of 2004, and I think we came down for the weekend like maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, and by the end of July we were here.
They were moved. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fast.
So it was quick.
Once it started happening, it was fast.
Yeah.
Why Maine?
I wasn't coming back to Maine, so I never wanted to come to Maine. I said I would never pastor. I would never live in Maine. And God moved me here the first time, and then I moved away to Illinois, and thought that was it. I was going to stay in the Midwest. Yeah. And actually, they asked me to stay. I was on staff, small groups as a larger church, and they asked me to stay as their senior pastor, and I thought that was probably what God had for us. And the opportunity to do a church plant, to start with people who really didn't have a church home or didn't go to church. And God just laid it on our hearts, and it was back to Maine. And I was like, I don't want to go back to Maine. Because Maine is, I was just reading this morning, actually, I was reading the stats. They just finished another survey on religion in Maine, and we've dropped again. And we're, number 49 in the States. Wow. As far as the lowest interest in religion, period. Not even God, not even Christianity. And that was part of why I didn't want to come back, was like, it's really difficult. And God just said, that's where I want you. And somewhat like Mike, Pam knew before I did. And just, so when the opportunity came, we said yes. And we're here. And I still ask, why Maine at times?
No offense to all you folks from Maine.
No. No, it's not a person that, it's just how difficult doing church in Maine is. It's not, the church that we were part of in Illinois was well established. It had funds, it had ministries, it had great people who love God and were just love to serve God, and coming back and starting this, we didn't have that. I mean, we had some people who were passionate, but you didn't have that established network that you were working from. And that was the part that was just really difficult. And that's why I kept saying, I don't know that's where I want to be. It's going to be a lot of work. And it has been, it's been good, but it's a lot of work. And so that was, God very definitely said Maine. Let's put it that way. That's why I'm here.
I love Maine. I'm from Maine, and I'm happy to be here.
This is home for him.
Home for Mike. Yeah. Was there any specific fears or doubts that stood out starting a church in Maine?
Oh, huge. We didn't know if we'd get paid. Actually, we packed our U-Haul and left Illinois not knowing where we were going to live when we got here. We didn't have an apartment. We didn't have a house. We didn't have anything secured when we left. By the way, I wouldn't suggest that. We knew some people, obviously. We had been here. I mean, every Sunday for the first, when we started services, like, will anybody show up?
Yeah.
And that was a constant, are they going to come or aren't they?
So Tim and Pam came in June of 2003. Melody and I and Gavin moved here in July of 2004. And even when we came and we're getting ready to come, Tim's sales pitch was, I don't know if we can pay you, but we'd really like you to come because we need the help. And I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny. That's literally what he said.
Yeah.
Like, if you come, we'll try to pay you some, but you're gonna have to find a job. You're gonna have to work. And I mean, obviously the Lord directed all of this. Again, it was clear then. It's crystal clear now.
Yeah.
But it was kind of contrary to my nature to be okay with that. I'm not a risk taker at all in any part of my life. And so to think I was leaving a steady paycheck and a place to live. Now, it was, it wasn't a huge paycheck, but I knew every Sunday I was going to get one. And we had a place to live and all of that. And so even looking back now, I think that was really something that was not natural to my personality and my way of thinking. Like, hey, yeah, let's do it. Let's take the plunge. Let's go. But I guess for one thing, that's how sure we were that God was calling us here. And the other thing is, I just think God superintended it. He timed it and worked it out of my heart. I was ready to do something a little different. I had spent 11 years in Sherman, speaking 3 times on Sunday, adult Sunday school class, Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, prayer meeting, and all those are great things, and I loved it. I love to teach, and I love doing it, and I think it's all of those opportunities and all that experience helped, God use that to help refine my gift and ability and all those kinds of things, so it was great. But I don't know, I was ready for something different. And I was actually quite happy to strap on a tool belt and grab the tools and go to work, climb around on roofs and, stand walls and build decks and, whatever we had to do. I don't know. I guess I was just ready for it. And a little different.
To Mike's point, I mean, so was I, as far as knowing that we weren't going to something that was established and we would have to build the whole thing. I'm a builder by nature. And so for me, there's an adventure in that. And so the money, I knew I could work. I knew I could build. I knew I could run heavy equipment. I knew that if somebody's willing to work, there's usually a job. So it wasn't so much the survival. It was like, how does this get turned into the mission, the church, the seeing people come to faith? How do we translate that? Like, what is that? What are the steps? What does that look like?
Yeah.
That was where the fear was more for me than it was, will we survive? I love adventure. So, Mike's not the risk. I am, I'm like, let's try it. The worst can happen is we fail, Oh, well. So that side of it was exciting to me. It's how do you translate that and it be legitimate and it be something that actually makes a difference in people. Yeah.
What were the earliest days like of Moss Brook?
A lot of times it didn't look like church. Like in terms of how people see church. There was a lot of small group prayer meetings. There was a lot of events that were people gathering events that had nothing to do with like a worship service. It was just getting people together and getting to know people. We spent more time doing carpentry than we did planning events, really, and really just meeting people and hanging out with people. And we spent a lot of time with small groups. Probably we poured more time and energy into our small groups than we really did anything else. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I mean, when we got here, the church was about 3 months into having weekly services. I mean, that first 9 or 10 months, you guys didn't even have a weekly service. I mean, if there was one, it was I mean, I don't know what you call it, almost private.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't something that everybody knew about that anybody could walk into. It was in somebody's basement or somebody's living room or something like that. So those early days, from my perspective, after that first year, we were meeting in the fire hall over on Western Avenue here in South Paris. And there was, when we came, there was 60, 70, 75 people on a
Yeah.
Sunday morning. And because it was so simple, and we didn't have to spend a lot of time preparing for that. I mean, whoever was speaking obviously had to prepare to speak, and the band practiced and played and led worship. But then other than that, it was just, well, probably at least 3 days a week we were working carpentry somewhere to earn a living. And then the other time was spent, just meeting with groups of people. We had a little planning team at the time that we met together, just kind of brainstorming things that we wanted to do. But it was pretty simple.
How many locations have you had?
7.
Okay, well, you guys were in
The Ben's basement.
Ben's basement.
We went to the fire hall.
Oh, you were, but were you in a living room?
We were in a living room prior to Ben. So a living room, Ben's
basement, fire hall. Then we went to the high school. We actually were only in the fire hall from April to December of 2004.
Yeah.
December of 2004, we moved to the high school. We were basically there for 14 years. But even while we were there,
We went to the
middle school a few times when the high school was busy.
the theater.
We went to the movie theater a few times when we couldn't go somewhere else. And that carried us through probably the first 15 years. And then,
We were at the
March of 2020,
we
COVID.
were at the fairground,
So we went to the fairground,
to a greenhouse,
to the greenhouse in the winter,
to a parking lot,
parking lot,
to the theater. Well, fairground again, then theater,
and
and then the tent.
then the tent. Is
And
anybody
then-
keeping? Is
and
anybody
then-
counting?
I don't know. And then the building. Yeah.
We'll put it up on screen. How
Yeah.
many locations that we've
There's
been
quite
at.
a few.
It's been a few. Yeah,
It's got to be 7 to 10 over the.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they, like I say, we were at the high school for 14 years.
Yep.
14 of the first 15 years, and then in the last 5 years, we were all over the place because
even
of COVID. We tried to get back into the high school, but then it just, the school board was really resistant to let us back in, and some people were still nervous about COVID and all that stuff. And frankly, as hard as it was meeting in some of those other locations, we were like, it's kind of nice to be in control of our own venue, even if our venue is a parking lot. At least we can do whatever we decide we want to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So at a point, we just stopped trying to get back to the high school.
And every one of those, we were portable too. So everything we hauled every Sunday, we
Yeah.
set up, no matter where we were. Even when we were at the high school, we set our own gear up. So that whole time, it's 18, 19 years.
How many enclosed trailers did we wear
Yeah,
out?
Quite a few.
There were
that
a bunch of
that
them.
we ruined.
Jay would come in and say, the trailer's leaking again.
Yeah.
And they would just, eventually fall apart. And we'd have
And
to
we'd
go
go
buy
get
another
another
one.
It was actually very good for the body too, by the way.
It made people really resilient, I think, because forgive us, Lord, we don't mean this in an arrogant way, but it almost became a matter of pride. We're like, we don't care where we meet.
Yeah.
We'll just meet.
Yeah.
The first summer that we met outside, which was at the fairground, we sat in camp chairs, and we had, I want to say it was 19 Sundays in a row of no rain.
Of no rain.
Because everybody said, well, what are we going to do if it rains? And we're like, I don't know. We'll worry about it when it rains, I guess. And we had 19 Sundays in a row it didn't rain. Now, we had some Sundays where it was raining right up until church. And we had some Sundays that as soon as we were done it started raining.
We'd pack up in the rain.
But between 10 and 11 for 19 Sundays in a row, it didn't rain. And then that winter we went to the greenhouse and we hung out there, and that was its own unique set of challenges, but it was kind of cool too. And then we said, well, we're gonna build our own stage here in the parking lot, and we're gonna meet right here. And I mean, last year, God gave us 19 Sundays in a row with no rain. So here we go.
Yeah.
It rained like it seemed like
Every
every
Sunday.
other Sunday that second spring and
Yeah.
summer and into the fall. But the cool thing was it didn't matter. Like I literally have a couple of pictures on my phone of the worship team on our little construction trailer stage that we built.
That blew over
that
in
had
the
a little
wind
roof.
at one point.
It blew over one day. Yep.
OSHA approved.
Until we chained it down.
Yep.
But I have pictures of people sitting in their camp chairs with their umbrellas and their hoods up and their hats on, like
Still going like it's
I think we have
going to church.
I think we have a picture of Tara playing the keyboard with like fingerless gloves on, trying to,
Yeah.
and everybody's guitars were going out of tune every song and like freezing. But it kind of built this resilience in people where they were like, you know what, now we're just stubborn enough, so we're not going to quit. We're just going to keep doing this.
And we had said from the very beginning that the church is not a building. The church is the body, the people.
God really wanted to make sure we got
And
that
God,
memo.
God was he was drilling that deep, which to today, you translate that. I mean, not everybody that's with us today was with us then, but our leadership team is very convinced that the church is the body. It's the group of people. And you see that in how they interact. This building, it's a great spot, but nobody's really hung up on our building. And they're willing to do about anything with it. Like they're not hung up on it. And I think that all goes back to all of those years of just saying, look, it doesn't matter where we are. We're just going to meet. We're going to worship God. We're going to love people, and we'll do it wherever we are.
Yep.
And
if we ever get uncomfortable with what's going on here, like I mean, we didn't anticipate it. We didn't anticipate that we would really, in many ways, outgrow this building in less than 2 years. But whenever anything gets difficult about what we're trying to do or accomplish in the limited space that we have, we usually say, well, at least we're not in a tent.
Right.
Well, at least we're not meeting in the parking lot. Someday you come in and it's just pouring sheets of rain, or it's freezing cold, or it's snowing. We're like, hey, it's better in the tent.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I wouldn't trade any of it. It was really difficult.
And really, it was a lot of fun. I mean, you got creative, and that was a lot of fun. You would be given a problem, partway through the week, like, what are we going to do Sunday? Because we're not going to be able to meet where we thought, and you've got a couple days to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the team would come together and go, okay, let's do this. And you'd figure out a way to make it happen. And it was good.
Unless we paint too rosy a picture, there were times when people were like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
they got tired.
They get tired, and rightly so. I
Right.
mean, there was a lot of turnover in the setup team because guys would do it for years and they'd be like, I need a break, or I can't do this anymore. But
it's hard. It was hard work.
It was really hard work,
Yeah.
but somebody else would step up and step in, and then we did. Honestly, we just had a few people that were just like unbelievably faithful for 18 years,
Right.
19 years of setting up and tearing down, and it was really, well, it was superhuman. It was God.
Yeah.
I mean, God really just had put it on the hearts of some of our folks that, this is what we're doing and I want you to be a part of it. And they just said, we'll do it.
We're in. We're all in.
Yeah, we'll do it.
So we're sitting at the location in the building. Moss Brook. Where did that name come from? Now, I understand the story because I've heard it.
Well, let me tell the story. So back to Maine. Maine has an accent. And one of the sweet ladies who was part of actually starting the church, it was her and her husband who really felt like God wanted them. Earl and Elma wanted the church to start. They wanted to plant a church for people who didn't know God. That was their heart, their desire. Older couple. And this land that this church sits on belonged to them. And they wanted to donate it. So when we were talking about the name of the church, there's a brook that runs by this piece of property. Actually, it's on the piece of property. And it goes down to the little Androscoggin River. But I asked Elma what the name of the brook was, and she told me it was Moss Brook.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, that's great. It identifies the property.
Right.
It's a great little spot. It's kind of a cool name for a place, for a church. And so we're like, okay, we'll name the church Moss Brook. And a little while after we had named it, by the way, just so you know, like we had officially done this with the state, I noticed that they were putting a subdivision in across the road, and they had put a sign up, and the sign said Morris Brook.
Morris
Brook Lane, not Moss Brook. So I went down to the town office and checked on the map because I thought they got it wrong.
Yep.
And found out that what Elma was telling me was Morris Brook, but she was saying it with a Maine accent, which was Moss Brook. And so we kept it. And it's a wonderful thing. I still like the name.
Yeah.
But that's how it got its name.
Yes.
It defines the location.
Looks really good on
That's
on
right.
the sweatshirt.
Looks good on the sweatshirt.
Can anybody buy our merchandise, Moss Brook Church merchandise?
Right at this present moment,
Yeah.
it's not open.
Okay.
It probably will be again at some point.
All right.
But
we'll try to make
it comes
that
and
happen.
goes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it comes
Our
and
merch
goes.
is available from time to time.
What does trusting God in the really hard times look like?
Are you talking for ministry? For like us in ministry? Is that what you're...
Or you guys, what have you learned?
I'll speak first of all from a ministry standpoint. I mean, we're at a point right now where it looks like we're an overnight success. It just took us 22 years.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of really difficult seasons of that where
Mm.
things were really slow. Like it just did not seem like anything was happening.
Mm.
And for me, it just kept going back to, I knew that God called me here.
Mm.
I knew that he called me into ministry, and I knew that he's never changed that. He's never told me to do anything different. And so because of that, I just keep trusting his word.
Mm.
I just keep going, okay, you put me here, and you promised to provide everything that I would need, and you promised to give me the grace to do what it is you asked me to do, and you promised to give me the strength to do what it is that you asked me to do. So I trust you.
Mm.
And I'm just going to show up every day, and I'm going to trust that you've got it. And I will do what I'm capable of doing, as limited as that is at times. I just trust that you've got it. And so for me personally in ministry, it's that I'm a pretty simple dude. And that's really where I've landed, is every day. And I do it pretty much every day. I'm like, okay, God, you've got this. And I don't know how it's all going to work, but you do. And I trust you.
There's something that happens after when you've walked with the Lord for a number of years, in our cases, decades. We both grew up being taught the scripture and being taught that it's honoring to God to trust him, and we should trust him, and we can trust him. And certainly I think we both believe that as 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds going into ministry for the first time. But there's something else that happens after you walk that out as an adult on yourself, making your own decisions for you, for your family, your wife, your children, and seeing God work and seeing the faithfulness of God time and again over the years, that I would certainly never come to the place where I would say it's always easy to trust God. Yeah. But you just see this. I mean, obviously, God has a track record of thousands of years that he has been faithful. My life is a lot shorter than that, though, and now I see, even in my own life, this track record of God doing exactly what he said he's going to do. It doesn't always look like I think it's going to, but I can see, just looking back in my own life, that God has been faithful. I can see how he did it in my parents' life, in the lives of some of my friends and people that I love and care about. And so, yeah, I think that helps Again, it's not automatic and it's not always
Right.
easy, but that helps to be able to look and say, well, I trusted God for this, and he has always been faithful to me. He's always provided for my family. And I guess the phrase I use a lot, we're just going to keep going. I mean, what's the other option? What's the other option? That I'm going to, go sideways on my own and try to make my own way, or try to make something happen that I think should happen? I've walked with God long enough to know that that's a really dumb idea.
Yeah.
And I would sooner, even though, again, it's not always easy, sometimes it's incredibly difficult, but I'm at the point now in my life, not perfectly, but I'm going to keep going. This is what God's called us to do. And so, we're going to keep going. And whatever he does, we get to be a part of it.
What does the future of Moss Brook Church look like?
Oh, man, if you can find somebody to answer that question, can you direct them to us?
Please.
I will, yeah.
That's Mike7Booker@gmail.com. I really would love to know
Link
the
in the
answer to this
description.
question.
You can call the phone if you'd like. I'll
If
take
you
a cell
know.
call. Sunday, when I was doing the offering, we've been doing our offering a little different and just doing kind of like either scripture or just encouraging people in their walk. And I really just felt Sunday morning as I was praying before church to just tell the body, like, hey, let's just keep saying yes to God. And I feel like that's the future, is like, I know he wants people to come to know him. That's his desire. That's his heart. That's his mind. That's all of scripture. That's the plan of God for humanity, is that they would have a relationship with him. And he built the church. He designed the church. He birthed the church for that purpose. Moss Brook Church started so people would know Jesus Christ. That's it. Not so we would have a name for ourselves, but so people would know Jesus Christ. And so for me, the future is that more people would know Christ, whatever that looks like. And I don't know what that looks like. I know that we keep sharing truth, and as God brings people, we just figure out ways to connect them to truth, and we figure out ways to disciple them and help them to grow. And if he says, okay, we're going to do that in more towns, okay, let's do that in more towns. If he says, let's just fill this place as many times as we possibly can, then okay, let's do that. His promise to us is that whatever he asks of us, he provides what we need to do it. So it's back to that trust question you asked.
Yeah.
I just trust that he's going to. It's way beyond me. I don't, it's not like we have a plan. I know there's a lot of people who are a lot smarter, more intelligent than I am, and I get to ask them questions. And so when I run out of like, what do we do next? I just pick up the phone and ask somebody who's done it and say, what did you do?
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to do that. Like, so I don't know.
I mean, I think if we were going to dream a little bit about what we hope the future looks like, obviously, we want Christ to continue to build his church as he's promised. We want to see people continue to come to Christ and be discipled, like Tim has said. Our dream, and we're actively asking God to do this. We've been asking God to do this for probably at least 4 or 5 years now. And that is, and he's starting to do it, and that is that he would raise up people in this family to continue on serving him and leading this church. I mean, we're realistic about the fact that, we're not going to be here forever. How long that is, we don't know. We kind of joke about, them burying us out on the soccer field. I mean, that's fine with us as far as we're concerned. We're not going anywhere. But we also know that we can't do this forever. I mean, just biologically, we know that as we get older, we can do less. And ultimately, someone else has got to, if Christ doesn't come back, someone else has got to lead this church. And so we've just for years been praying that God would raise up people in this body. It's just a conviction that we have that it would be just so awesome for God to just build another wave of young leaders. And he's doing that. We can see that he's doing that in other areas, not pastorally yet, which is maybe okay because I'm not quite ready to be done yet, but I guess we'll let God decide that.
Right.
But it'd be cool to be sitting at the back and be, 80 years old and see, I don't know, the babies that we held in our arms leading this church, or the kids of the babies we held in our arms leading this church. I mean, that would be I think that'd be a dream come true for us, that God would continue to be glorified and that he would just bring people. We certainly don't want this to end with us. We want it to keep going, continue to glorify God.
And from the very beginning of this, I mean, 2 Timothy 2:2, which is, the faithful things that, Paul is talking to Timothy there. And he's just talking about the generational, taking what Timothy was taught faithfully by Paul, and Timothy teaching that to another generation who teaches that to another generation, that the generations would keep going. And when we started this, that was how we started, was we said, look, this isn't about us. This is generational. And this is about our faith being passed on. And how do we do that so that the generation behind us and the generation behind them have the passion to follow God? And you see it on our stage, you see it in our ministries. We have, from the youngest to the old, all involved in different forms of leadership and ministry. And to Mike's point, there would be nothing more satisfying than finishing out years of ministry and watching those generations all serving and going there. It's not my legacy, or his, or our name, or what we did. There's generations of people who have given away their faith, and other generations are serving and coming to know Christ and using their gifts, and that would be, would just be so cool to be part of. And we're seeing it, like Mike said, we have that here. That's happening already. But it would be cool to watch that full circle and give all the leadership away at some point.
I'd like to end on this because you just mentioned the younger generation coming up. There's a young person sitting on the other side of that screen. They've never been to church. They've thought about it. Maybe they've had a bad experience going to a church. They're considering going again, haven't made that decision to finally get up and go. What is one thing that you would be able to say to them to get them to finally go?
I hope this doesn't sound fatalistic, but I would say, what have you got to lose? I think it's more prevalent and more obvious now than ever that this world doesn't offer anything that satisfies. I think it looks to me like people in our culture are searching for meaning. They're searching for something that matters. And of course, we know that Christ is the one who changes everything and gives life value and gives life meaning. And that's our motivation, is that meaning that Christ has given our lives. And so I guess my one thing would be just a challenge. Why wouldn't you? What have you got to lose to seek Christ and see the difference that he might make in your life?
Yeah, mine would be very similar to what Mike said. Go find Jesus. Don't worry so much about the church. Because if you find Jesus, you're going to find the church, the church, the actual church, because he's the head of it. And so if you decide to go into a church, look for Jesus. And when you meet him, all of the other stuff that are your apprehensions, all of the walls that you've, or the mindset that you have that religion is about this, or they want this, or it's a set of rules or whatever. If you meet Jesus, all of that disappears. And if you end up in a church that Jesus is actually the head of, it becomes so obvious so fast. I would challenge as well. Yeah, meet Jesus, find Jesus. And yeah, it'll change your mind, change your world. It'll rock your world.
Before we end, I realize I want to ask you both something. What is something you have learned that you continue to do today from building this church?
The best way to lead is to encourage people to do what God is asking them to do. Don't try to do everything yourself. Just encourage people to do what God's laying on their heart. That's the best way to lead.
Something I learned a long, long time ago is you can't lead anyone somewhere you haven't been yourself. And so if I feel like God is asking us to do something or to go in a direction or to consider something, then I spend a fair amount of time and energy asking God to lead me in that direction myself before I have a conversation with people. Or so whether it's through scripture or it's through another person, but I'm constantly asking God, lead me first and let me learn. So that when I get there with other people, I have a clue. I may not have it all figured out, but God's been working in me already. And I try to stay in that posture of God, do the work in me first.
Tim, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the So What's the Point podcast. So glad that you guys could chisel out some time during your day to come on here and have a conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.